Welcome back to the BDTV Breakfast Show. You are now on to the Big Story segment, your trusted platform for breaking down the key issues shaping our economy, industry, and nation. I am Elizabeth Musa, and it's a pleasure that you're starting your day with us. Today, we turn our focus to a monumental development in Nigeria's oil and gas sector, the commencement of operations at the Warri Refinery. After years of dormancy and rehabilitation efforts, the refinery is finally up and running. This landmark achievement could significantly alter the trajectory of Nigeria's oil industry, reducing fuel imports, enhancing local production, and creating new economic opportunities. But what exactly is the operational capacity of this refinery? How does it fit into Nigeria's broader energy strategy? And what are the prospects for our oil industry as we navigate a challenging global energy market? To help us understand the operational overview of the Warri Refinery and the potential impact on Nigeria's oil industry, we are now joined by Dipo Oladende. He is a senior energy expert here at Business Day. Thank you for joining, Dipo.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Awesome. This is a very interesting development that we have the Warri Refinery finally up and running after a long time. You are the right person for this conversation, clearly. So it's years of delays. Many people have wondered what are the specific factors that made it possible that we are now finally commencing operations. But I would like to hear your perspective from the point of view that you have. You've been covering this bid for years now, so you'll be in the best position to let us know what's made it possible after so many years of delay, and now we are finally commencing.
Okay, thanks. Once again, good to be here. So I'll start from 1999 during the civilian administration of former President Olusegun Obasanjo. So up from that time, that's 1999, all through his administration, the refinery was operating at less than 10% capacity. And so there've been a lot of talks about the fact that, we need to fix the refinery. So not just Warri Refinery, Kaduna Refinery, Port Harcourt Refinery as well. Mm-hmm. And so what the new administration, or what the previous administration of President Muhammadu Warri did differently is, in other administration, what we've been doing is what we call turnaround maintenance of the Warri Refinery. So turnaround maintenance means you bring in Nigerian engineers, bring a lot of people in, they'll do periodic checking, is this working, is this not working, and the rest of it. And now they've done all of this at different points in time, but then nothing has been achieved. The refinery is just not working, keeps breaking down, and then struggling to operate at less than 50% capacity. So what the previous administration did was to approve a complete rehabilitation of the refinery. So about 898 million US dollars was approved for this rehabilitation. And they brought in experts. So when I mean expert, they brought in the best of the best. There was a South Korean company, Daewoo, that was brought in to basically oversee the complete rehabilitation. So complete rehabilitation means some equipment were completely off the hook and then new equipment were brought in. And so this is a new thing that is on board, and that's why the refinery is currently coming on stream. And that's why, so the refinery capacity of about 125,000 barrels can refine about 125,000 barrels per day, so which means it can do petrol, aviation fuel, diesel, and every other petroleum product. So
if I hear you correctly, this refinery has a capacity of how much?
125,000 barrels per day. Can refine 125,000 barrels per day. And so what the NNPC have announced to us is, so the refinery is not 100% yet. So what we do know about refining is, so to kickstart a refinery, you won't start operating at full capacity immediately. So it takes time. So you'll probably be operating at about a quarter of that, doing probably just diesel and aviation fuel. Then after a while, they start increasing production. So if you do a quarter production for a while, they study it, monitor it. After a while, they increase it to half, increase it to 75%. And then before the tail end of 2025, we should be seeing close to 90% operations from the Warri Refinery.
90% operation, that seems like a good news for Nigerians. But what can Nigerians expect from this development, particularly in terms of fuel pricing and availability?
Yeah, so in terms of availability, one of the things local refinery brings to the table is there'll be availability of products. That's the first benefit of having a local refinery in your country. Now, in previous times or under previous administrations or in previous years, what we've noticed is we are dependent on imports. So depending on imports means that you are at the mercy of the international community. Whenever something is going wrong in the international community, it will always have a trickle down effect to your economy. So for instance, European refineries are doing turnaround maintenance on their refinery and they need to shut down for a while. There'll be scarcity of products in Nigeria. If something is happening across the Atlantic Ocean, or probably there's a problem between transferring from what we call a mother vessel to a daughter vessel, you would have scarcity of products. If there's a problem along the seas or the dredging of the sea was not done well, you would have problem with supplying of products. But now with this Warri Refinery coming on stream, there will be availability of products. Now in terms of pricing, what we've noticed is now in terms of pricing is a bit tricky because there's a lot of fundamentals that's come into play. So you need to look at your exchange rate, you need to look at the international price of crude, you need to look at some other little things as well that makes up the cost template for you to arrive at a particular retail price. And so all of these, yes, would there be slight decrease in price? Yes, a bit. But then the most important thing is there will be availability of products, and once the product is available, you have a dependable structure. It means that the era of scarcity, the era of queuing endlessly for petrol, the era of black markets, the era of all of those things would be a thing of the past. So we'll have availability of products, we'll have a slight decrease in price. In terms of so your exchange rates as well, some of the dollars you would have been used to import petroleum products will now be domesticated in. So you're adding value to your currency. That's one. And then you are also creating economic activities around that refining area. So it means you're employing more people, you are creating jobs, you are boosting economy, you are boosting your naira, you are also increasing the amount of money that is, because the moment there's increase in economic activities, then people can do business, and then it's a win-win for the economy.
And speaking of boosting the economy, the government has also emphasized job creation as one of the benefits of this refinery. But what scale of employment are we looking at, and how will this benefit, the local economy in Warri, and maybe not just Warri, Nigeria at large?
Okay, so when the refinery was set up in 1978, the main aim of the refinery is to supply products to the entire southeastern part of the country, the southeast, the south, and all of those areas. Now, what we are saying is, so for constructing, having a 125,000 barrels of day refinery, working refinery, we are looking at about a minimum of close to 20,000 jobs, either directly or indirectly. So you'll be having a lot of people who will be working across the entire value chain, either as tank drivers that will be moving the product, the people working at the refinery itself, or the entire economic activities surrounding that refinery. Now, all of these are a lot. Now, it's difficult to put numbers into this kind of activities because one of the reasons why Nigeria's oil and gas sector has not given value to the economy is the fact that we've struggled to domesticate the entire value chain. A working refinery means that the entire midstream angle of Nigeria's oil and gas sector is domesticated in Nigeria. As once it's domesticated in Nigeria, of course you have value, you'll be creating jobs, and then your economy should also be improving in terms of GDP growth.
And given the history of underperformance in Nigeria's refineries, that's something that we are very familiar with. What measures do you know have been put in place to ensure that the Warri Refinery operates at maximum capacity?
Okay, so when you look at the business of running a refinery, the margins are slim. It's like, let me give a typical example. It's like provision business in Nigeria. Sometimes you put in 100 naira, you are getting 105, 110. So the margins are quite slim. So you need to pay attention to your efficiency rates. So do we have? So a lot of people have argued that, look, perhaps the civil service structure in Nigeria, is it efficient enough to run these refineries? Some have argued not true. Some have argued that no, it's not possible. I mean, those on the side of the government who say yes, we can do it. But then again, refinery ought to be in the hands of private investors, right? It ought to be in the hands of people who are serious and people who pay attention to details, people who are efficient, and people who understand the fact that look, it's a margin business. If you don't do too well in terms of, if you don't do, it's not a business of, we wake up, we open by 8 and then we close by 4, or the typical civil servant structure we have in Nigeria. So we need to be efficient in terms of how we run it, because if not, we'll be back to square one. And so one of the reasons people have said, look, let the government, let these refineries be transferred into private hands. Yes, the government can own perhaps 40% equity, 30% equity in it, but then let it be managed efficiently by people in the private sector, people who understand the business, people who have antecedents in terms of making profits, and then we'll start seeing the efficient angle of these refineries. But I mean, all of this time will tell. The NNPC is insisting that he had what it takes. He does have what it takes to run the refinery, and then we'll see how it pans out before the end of the year.
And speaking of efficiency and sustainability, and what people are clamoring for, are there plans to actually privatize, or commercialize more aspects of refinery operations to ensure more profitability and efficiency?
Currently, there is no plan. I don't know of any plan regarding that. I remember the government, there was a tender that was announced by the NNPC where people were asked to apply for the management of these refineries. We don't know the outcome of that announcement yet. And so the government, again, you need to look at the mindset of the government. So the current Tinubu administration is not really, we've not seen them transfer power, or let's say reduce stakes in government owned entities yet. So we don't know if they would have plans towards reducing government stake in either this Warri Refinery, Port Harcourt Refinery, or even the Kaduna Refinery. But then again, it depends on the mindset of the government. What's the government's approach towards government assets? If the government is having the mindset of, we need to prioritize efficiency above ownership, then of course we would see the transfer. But if the mindset is, let's own it first of all, then status quo would remain the same.
And now the Port Harcourt Refinery is in operation, same as the Warri Refinery. What does this actually mean for Nigeria's industry? What's the outlook looking like?
Okay, so I mean, beyond the Port Harcourt Refinery, we have there's a Dangote Refinery as well. We have a lot of other modular refineries. So the outlook is bright, definitely, because for the first time, we are seeing the reduction in importation, and at some point, we'll see the complete elimination of importation of petroleum products. It's always been embarrassing that Nigeria is Africa's biggest oil producing country, but yet we are still depending on importation of petrol for economic activity. So for the first time, that stigma or that cost is no longer there. So now we are seeing the revival of domestic refineries in Nigeria. So that's a good thing. That's a bright thing. So hopefully we'll see the impact of oil and gas contributions to Nigeria GDP going forward. So it's good that we are now refining locally. It's good that at some point Nigeria will start looking at supplying the entire West Africa as well. So not just for our own consumption. I mean, petrol consumption in Nigeria is close to around 50 million liters per day in terms of petrol. So if we're able to satisfy the local markets well, then we should look at supplying the West African market or even the entire African region as well. And all of this means you're earning dollars, you're bringing in income of dollars into the economy, which will further reduce one of the biggest challenges we face in terms of maintaining our exchange rate is the fact that we are struggling to earn dollars as a country due to struggling oil production. But if the refining angle can also come on stream, and then we'll start seeing improvement in the exchange rate. So it's a good thing. It's the biggest hurdle we face is maintenance. The biggest hurdle we face is continuity. And then the biggest hurdle we face as well is how to make sure that all these things we are seeing are not flash in the pan, most especially for the state-owned refineries.
And it's looking, on my end, it's looking good. And we have the Warri Refinery, this Dangote Refinery, also there is the Port Harcourt Refinery. But then there's a question that's on my mind, and I know that this question will also be on the mind of Nigerians. People thinking, with all of this going on, I don't expect that we'll still be importing some sort of importing in any way. But do you think that there's still possibility of this happening?
So I mean, if we're a serious country, right, there's no reason for us to import right now. Because first of all, Dangote has enough to supply the whole of Nigeria. What we should be doing is we should be supporting our local refinery. So what are these? What are the kind of support? What kind of support do we need to provide for local refineries? We need to make sure there's efficient supply or steady or consistent supply of crude oil for them to refine for us to use in our refineries. So what the government doing is the government putting structures in place to ensure there's free flow of crude oil from Nigeria or from Nigeria's terminal to all of these refineries. That's one. Is the government paying attention to the working? Is it creating the right environment in terms of the regulatory approvals that are going on track, or the government is sitting on some of them and saying, no, you need to do this, you need to do that. So the most important thing is creating the right atmosphere for local refineries to work. Once they are working at full capacity, because we are not just looking at petrol, there are a lot of other derivatives that we are not even maximizing yet from refining crude oil in Nigeria. A lot of people are just talking about petrol, they are talking about aviation fuel, they are talking about diesel, but then there is a whole lot of other products that we are yet to tap into, we are yet to key into, because we've gotten so used to importation of petrol that sometimes we've lost track of other derivatives of refining that can still add value to our economy.
So, just because we are trying to engage and inform our audience, what are some of these derivatives that you're talking about?
Okay, so for instance, there's a lot of petrochemical products that we can use for plastics in Nigeria that we are currently exporting, or that we are currently not taking advantage of, because we've not been used to importing of petrol. We've not been used to rather refining of petrol in Nigeria. We've been used to importing. So chemical products like I don't have them at the top of my head now, but I know there are some that can be used for rubber manufacturing, plastic manufacturing, and a whole lot of we talk about lubricant products as well that are also used for oiling of machines and the rest of it. So I mean, there is a whole lot of other things we can do. The most important thing is, when I mean a whole lot, I'm talking about at least a minimum of 50, close to 50 or 60 other derivative of crude oil that we are yet to leverage on. So what we are saying is, let's pay attention to the local refineries, let's support them. If they're having any one or two challenges, let's encourage them, let's give them all the maximum support we need, and then as time goes on, we'll start seeing the value, because we need to support our local refineries. And then local refineries, always a win-win, because you are creating job, you're adding value to the economy, you are not relying on foreign countries to feed your country in terms of petrol, diesel, aviation fuel. So you're good.
And earlier in the week, I think on Monday or Tuesday or so, I was speaking to an analyst, and he had mentioned, I'd asked him this question, and he had mentioned that for the sake of competition, there might still be need to import and to avoid any sort of monopoly. Do you agree with this?
Can you come again?
The analyst had mentioned that for the sake of of being able to compete and avoiding monopoly in the market from these refineries, that there might still be need to import.
Okay, so there's that argument as well that yes, so I've also heard of that argument as well, that we need to import for the sake of monopoly and the rest of it.
Avoiding monopoly.
To avoid monopoly. And the argument is this: yes, every country in the world is doing certain things or putting certain policies in place to protect or encourage their local economy. Clearly, the cost of refining in Nigeria cannot be more expensive than the cost of importing. It can't be. So if the refining in Nigeria is better in terms of quality, because some have also argued that, look, the quality of the product being imported into Nigeria are substandard quality, are products where the quality cannot tested, the quality cannot be well depended on, and the rest of it. But then you have local refinery that is guaranteeing you higher quality. It's cheaper in terms of cost. So what's the incentive to import? So we can't just say, oh, let's import for importing's sake. But why should we import when we have enough products in Nigeria to supply the market? And yes, because anybody who is going to import will have to source. So where are you going to source the dollar to import from? Clearly, the government should not be giving him dollar to anybody to import. So if you can source your dollar from the black market, will you be able to compete in terms of local refining? I doubt if you can compete, because you are sourcing your dollar. So let's assume you want to import. I want to do local refinery. So you, first of all, you go and source your dollars on the black market. Now the cost of shipping from wherever you are refining it in Europe, the cost of bringing it from wherever country you are bringing it from into Nigeria, you have that, you definitely add that cost to your business as well in order for you to break even, right? Now it can be cheaper compared to me who is refining here in Nigeria, and then you can just stroll into my compound, pick up the product, and then go to take it to wherever you need to take it to. So definitely importation would not be able to compete in terms of costs or in terms of, but whoever wants to, the main thing is the government should not be providing dollars for anybody to import. So if you want to import, yeah, go and source your dollars on the black market, but would you be able to compete? I mean, the economics would not be favorable to you. So, but the most important thing is, in all of these countries you are importing from, you're adding value to their economy by taking their product and then bringing it into Nigeria. So let's encourage our own here, and then let's also, let's encourage and let's give them all the support we need, and then let's see how it goes.
So therefore, this might be maybe my last question. Might be, now we are in a new year, 2025, day 9th, day 9 precisely. There have been conversations of what's this year going to look like in terms of, different parts of the economy. People that we've spoken from, aviation angle, we've spoken from the businesses, manufacturing and whatnot. But you are manning the energy desk. What do you think, that coming from where we were last year, 2024, what do you think the outlook is looking like in every area of the energy sector? Now, I'm not just talking about refining. I'm also talking about, electricity, everything. What do you think are some of the trends or some of the happenings from last year that we should learn from and do better for this year?
Okay, so we got some things right in 2024. So the government was able to, we're able to achieve FIDs, final investment decisions for some projects. We also got, the government also the Tinubu administration also gave approvals to a lot of divestments, like five divestment deals that were been hanging for a long time. And so yes, those improvements, we're already seeing inflow of investment into the country. For instance, Shell last year announced they were putting 5 billion in Bonga oil assets. I mean, good thing. Those are the kind of investments we need in Nigeria. So going forward, what do we need to do? We need to sustain the momentum. We need to sustain some of the things we've achieved last year. We need to make sure there is speedy approvals. We need to make sure that the bureaucratic process is not as difficult as it used to be in time past. So last year, the government also signed some executive orders as well to fast track implementations of projects in Nigeria. So signing executive orders is one thing, implementing it is another thing. One of the biggest challenges we face concerning the Petroleum Industry Act, which is the biggest thing that has happened to one of the biggest things that has happened to Nigeria's oil and gas sector, has been the implementation of these acts. So investors will tell you that doing business in Nigeria or walking into government offices can be difficult because of the need to grease palms, because of how difficult it might be, because of corruption, because of this, because of that. So we need to get all of that out of the way, and then we need to make sure that we provide the ease of doing business in Nigeria's oil and gas sector is as efficient and as smooth as possible. That's one. And then we need to get rid of certain things that have been like that have weakened us or weakened our ability to perform. So things like crude oil theft, things like underinvestment as well, things like struggling crude oil production. So we need to improve our crude oil production. We are currently doing about 1.5. We have the capacity to do about 2.5 or 4 million barrels, but we are still doing less than half of that. So we need to scale up oil production. And yes, so we need to, so that's in terms of upstream. So in terms of downstream, we need to continue on this part of full deregulation of the downstream system. We need to ensure that the market is fully deregulated, is efficient, there's transparency, and then there's accountability in the sector. And then we need to make sure that we are doing the right things at the right places. I think all of this would give us a wonderful 2025.
Amazing. If you were looking through a crystal ball right now and you wanted to give a speculation to how much petrol could drop to, this year? Because I'm looking forward to it dropping. What would you say? What would you say it could be? Where do you think it would be bringing
Okay,
us
so
to?
remember I said the pricing for petrol is a bit dicey because it's very much dependent on the price of international crude oil. So international forecast from either OPEC, IEA, or Standard Chartered, they're all predicting a bearish outlook for 2025 in terms of international oil price. So some are saying, and then the coming in of Donald Trump as well, who has always been a very big advocate of lower crude oil prices. There's the fact that, okay, so crude oil will tail towards $60 per barrel, $55 per barrel. So of course lower than the current region. So currently crude oil is trading around 70, 72, 73, and so there are speculations that it could even be lower than that before the end of the year. And so what does that mean? So two things. Yes, it will lead to lower petrol prices, so you can see perhaps a $50, $100 drop. So probably see petrol dropping to maybe 700, maybe 750. Yeah, good thing. But then that's a double-edged sword because it also means that our oil revenue would also be dropping as well.
Yes.
So it means our forecast for 2025 is to end, I think the budget is benchmark on a $75 per barrel crude oil, and then based on output of over 2 million barrels per day. So if crude oil prices are dropping in the international markets, it will have, I mean, it's a two-edged sword. So it's either, so what do we want? Do we want more oil revenue and higher petrol prices, or we want low petrol prices and, or we want low, do we want higher oil revenue and lower petrol prices, or do we want lower petrol prices and higher oil revenue? So I mean, time will definitely tell.
Time will definitely tell. But speaking about revenues, this will be my last question. Speaking about revenues, you're talking about revenues now, and how do we want higher petrol pricing
Or lower,
and lower revenue, or higher petrol prices and higher revenue? But there have been conversations on how Nigeria has never, or maybe more often than not, never reached its OPEC quota. So with all of this good news in Nigeria, with all of these refineries operating and whatnot, do you see us reaching our OPEC quota this year?
yes. So I say that because remember I said the government have given green light to about 5 divestment deals. So Shell's asset sale to Renaissance approved, ExxonMobil asset sale to Seplat approved, Oando asset purchase from ENI approved as well. And so if all of these divestment deals, their oil production starts coming on stream, yes. Seplat recently announced they have plans of achieving 120,000 barrels per day this year. That's a good thing. So if you have all of these divestment deals coming on stream, and then we're able to block all the leakages in terms of crude oil theft, where we are losing about 400,000 barrels per day just to theft alone. Imagine if we are able to block that, and we're able to bring in about 400,000 barrels from this divestment deal. Combined, we are looking at about 800,000. 800,000 added to the current 1.5 or 1.4 we are currently doing, push us definitely above 2 million barrels. So yes, we can do that if we are disciplined enough to get the right things, fix the leakages, and bring all the ones that are lagging on stream, the idle oil assets on stream. I think we'll be good to go.
I think the key word there is discipline. Thank you so much, Dikko, for your time. It's always a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you for your insight today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, stay tuned, everyone, as we continue to explore the operational overview of the Warri Refinery and the future of Nigeria's oil industry right here on BDTV. My name is Elizabeth, and that's all we can take today on this segment of Big Story. You're still watching Business Day Television. Don't go away.